All right, thank you all so much for jumping on to our second mini-sode regarding student search. If you haven't had a chance to check out our first mini-sode with my colleague Jess, where she talked about Slate, I highly recommend checking it out. But today we're going to talk about a digital-first approach to student search. My name is Jamie Oleksic. I'm AVP for Enrollment and Marketing Strategy, and I work with clients all over the country to develop their marketing strategy and how it can meet their enrollment goals. So I appreciate you being here. So I'd be remiss as a digital first student search advocate to not start with your website. I think we can all agree that our website is our most powerful recruitment tool, and that it also can be our biggest barrier for prospective students. Unfortunately, hired websites were not originally built as recruitment tools, so they're really complex systems that were built as a resource for a lot of different audiences, which can make it challenging to make it easy from a user perspective for our students. It's also our catch-all for all search efforts, right? If a student talks to you at a college fair or at a visit, or if they receive a mailer or an email or even see a billboard, the first thing they're going to do is go to your website. So it has always been an integral part of search, but only now are we starting to really leverage it as the tool and giving it the attention that it needs. We did ask prospective students how important the design and experience of a website is in their student search. And the response was overwhelmingly that students they get an impact from a website, and they respond to that. So does the design of your website impact your impression of the university? 47% said a great deal, a lot. Only 5% said none at all. So honestly, if our website is not catering to this audience or responding to this audience, we're really hurting ourselves in the long run and then potentially losing students within our search funnel. So I challenge you to ask yourself these questions when thinking about your website and how it relates to student search for those prospective students. Can they find your site? Quite simply, if you go into Google, go into Bing, you search on your brand name, your programs, schools in your region as a search, what's coming up? Is your brand coming up? Is it the right type of content for a prospective student? Because quite honestly, even if you send them a link to your website or write out a PURL or a unique URL on a billboard, those users are not going to type that in. They're going to Google your brand, your programs. Can they find what they're looking for? So if you're asking broader questions, what is the application deadline? Will I receive financial aid from X university? What kind of scholarships are available to me? When your website comes up, is it relevant? Is it taking them to a page that answers those specific questions? This is kind of number 2 and 3 put together. Are they giving them enough information to get them to the right place? Is it easy to take action? Obviously, we want students to engage with us throughout their journey, which is sometimes, we all know, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 4 years of engagement. Do we make it easy for them to engage, to take that next step, to request information, to apply? These are taking things in consideration like placement of your forms, or how easy they are to access. How long are your forms or your processes? What does that look like? And I urge you to go through this as kind of an unofficial audit, right? Both from your team, but also individuals that aren't affiliated with your institution. Ask them to do the same. And these are the typical barriers that we find when going through this exercise. Complex site architecture. How many of us have websites that you are required to know the college that your program lives within to navigate to that program through your website navigation? Most students aren't going to know that. Most students don't know the language that we speak, the acronyms that we're in, the different departments that our campuses offer. So creating an architecture where you have to know that is almost giving someone a map without any directional key code. So that can be a huge barrier for those students. Lack of sidebar menus. On all of your admissions pages, there should be a sidebar menu that takes them quickly to request info, visit, and apply. right? That follows them around. So wherever they are, whatever triggers them to say, you know what, I'm ready to do something, that should be right there at the forefront. Duplicate content can really hurt you from a SEO or search engine optimization standpoint. Google will penalize you, and you'll show up less in Google search, which is going to hurt you, obviously. Your internal website search function, students are going to use that just like they use Google, right? So making sure that that's functioning properly and not pulling up old archived content. And then buried content, right? Content students are never going to see. We spend a lot of time writing content, make sure that it's visible and easy to find. One way to combat a lot of that without doing a whole site overhaul, which we know can be a capital project, a large project, is through website personalization. And we've all experienced personalization, right? We all use Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and all of these different channels that have mastered the art of personalization. We want to see things that are similar or alike with a lot of the things we've already engaged with, right? And students are the same way, particularly this generation. So we ask the question, do you enjoy when web content's tailored to your interests? Over 50%, upwards of 60% said yes, they enjoy that. That's what they're looking for. But what was shocking to me was we asked directly, do you expect content to be personalized on return visits, that same website? Over 30% said yes. So they're thinking you're already taking in consideration what they've engaged with, what they've done on your site. And in many situations, we're not in higher ed. So I challenge you to start the conversation on web personalization. This does not require a recode of your site. This does not require an incredibly expensive tool or process. It can be simply done based on a lot of these factors you see here on the left. We at Carnegie have a proprietary system called Clarity that manages this, but there are a number of ways to do website personalization that's a low lift to the user. And you can personalize based on a ton of different things, what they interact with on your paid campaigns, how they behave on your website. For instance, if a student is undecided in your CRM, but they're spending a lot of time on your computer science page, that's new helpful information for your admissions team. Why not personalize that experience and tell them about a specific computer science open house or student story that they'll then engage with? Where they are in the funnel, of course, demographic information, their persona, or we use DARTS here at Carnegie, which talks about the psychographic motivations of students. All of this can create a personalized experience for the user. And it works really well, both from a personalized content perspective, but also from a user experience. So navigating all of those roadblocks that we walked through, website personalization can help you guide students to where they need to be in a quick, easy way and navigate that complex website. This is an example of one of our partners that identified that their call to action, their inquiry button was below the fold, was under a hero image, kind of buried. And so we tested a couple of different personalization elements like banners, light boxes to bring that to the forefront to the right user at the right time. And we saw so much engagement, over 300% increase in conversion volume just from changing that experience and the elements we're using on the website. So beyond the website, we certainly need to think about our digital marketing plan, right? And I recognize that this is a complex endeavor, developing a digital plan. There are so many channels out there and audiences, but this tool here is something that can be helpful to think about. We always recommend starting with your goals. Obviously, enrollment is at the forefront of that goal, right? Increasing enrollment or increasing applications from your priority populations. But what are those quantifiable goals throughout the journey that get you to that point? Inquiries, registering for visits, spending time on the website, opening your emails. What are those triggers that we can measure to then estimate what that engagement is going to be down the line? Then once you know your goals, identifying your audiences, different channels work better for different audiences. So know exactly who you're reaching. Is it a certain region? Is it an age demographic? Is it students that have been to your site before? Is it students that don't know who you are yet? Who are those audiences that you're trying to reach? Pairing that up with the right message to those audiences that's really specific and personalized. And that's when you start thinking about the channels that make the most sense and what fits best with your plan. And then developing the cadence for measuring success. I think so many of us will kind of develop this plan, set it, and then 3 months later, take a look back and say, oh my goodness, like, how did that work? Did it function the way we wanted it to? Creating a cadence of every other week or monthly to check in on the campaigns, adjust creative, and read the data that students are telling you. With search, because search is not digital only, right? We're just talking about digital first. There are a lot of other important considerations, right? This is a multifaceted effort. You're going to have boots on the ground. You're going to have mailers. You're going to have emails. You're going to have so many different things happening. So when you're building that digital first strategy, there are some other things that you need to consider. Who are your priority populations, right? Where is our focus? Is it females? Is it computer science majors? Is it a certain region? Who are those populations? Are we optimizing our efforts to those populations and putting our focus there? How are we segmenting? And are we marrying that segmentation across all of our channels? If we're segmenting our email campaign in one way, we should be doing that same segmentation digitally to marry up the message and the audience. Time of year, always critical at higher ed, right? We're cyclical in nature, and that time of year is shifting a little bit post-COVID. So keeping that in mind, coordinating with the admissions team, the recruitment team, overlaying some digital marketing ahead of, during, and after a large-scale visit or an open house can be so critical to keep your brand in front of those students that are now engaging with you in multiple formats. Understanding that journey, of course, attention span, A/B testing, everything, video, static versus different messaging, looking at different video lengths, what's getting more engagement, thinking about the short attention that we have of students, and then reporting on success. What are those metrics for success that we're looking for? Leaning into your CRM like Slate, leaning into analytics and understanding the impact there. So of course, we know this is a lot, and we here at Carnegie pride ourselves as being kind of the missing puzzle piece that you need, and happy to support in any of the areas that we talked about today. We're a really powerful team, specifically in the digital segment that can support all of these channels and areas, whether it's just kind of account management, keeping everything on track, developing creative. We have digital strategists that understand the nuances of higher education. And then probably even more important, we have specialty strategists that understand the different channels and the changes that are happening to all of those channels almost on a daily basis. This has been a pretty wild year in terms of changes to privacy and targeting. And so we are able to support that and get ahead of it for a lot of our partners. So in summary, why use a digital first approach for student search? Intentionality, meet students where they are, right? No more broad brush strategies, no more, this is what we've always done. Be really intentional on your placements and where you're meeting students and the timing of that. Authenticity is key for Gen Z and for all of the generations after Gen Z. Tell your story in an authentic way. And then personalization, right message, right students, right time, reacting to the information that they're giving you. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for your attention to this point. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or to my smart, savvy, amazing team at carnegiehighered.com, and we would be happy to help you.